The Knuckles series follows the adventures of the fearless hero, Knuckles the Echidna. The series takes a rewind from the introduction of Knuckles in the last Sonic movie and how he teamed up with Sonic and Tails to defeat the evil mustache supervillain Dr. Robotnik. The series then begins with Knuckles trying to adapt to his new home in Green Hills. Trying to adapt to a new home is kind of a big deal for Knuckles, because the way of his tribe is totally different. One morning after his regular morning warm-ups, Knuckles sees who came to fix a giant hole Knuckles made in the house. Knuckles saw them and he immediately felt the Tarkowski's home was under attack and swung into action. Knuckles take them out one by one, which left them in fear and terror. Mrs. Tarkowski then comes out surprised at what just happened and got confronted by one of the workers asking if she wanted to get them killed. Immediately they got into their truck and left the scene. Mrs. Tarkowski then confronts Knuckles asking angrily, but she remains mute. Sonic and Tails then get into the scene and sees her angry. They both promise to talk to Knuckles. Sonic explains things to him, telling him he can make Green Hills his home, maybe feeling a bit comfortable here, take a break from being a warrior. Knuckles then meditates on Sonic's advice and finally agrees on making himself at home, which is an outrageous decision. The next morning we see what Knuckles took from Sonic's advice. This made Maddie very mad, so she grounded Knuckles, never to leave his room or do any warrior thingy. Moving on, we meet Wade Whipple, the local police officer from the last Sonic movie. He and his best friend Jack Sinclair practice for a bowling contest. Wade needed to work on his bowling, but he doesn't do very well and gets replaced by a 5-year-old girl. Knuckles, which made him furious. Knuckles, who was still grounded, seeks advice from his Echidna elders, and then Chief Pachkamak appeared to his aid. He tells Knuckles to train an apprentice in the ways of Echidna, which was Wade Whipple, and he disappears into the sky. Knuckles goes off to Wade Whipple's house and informs him of his destiny to conquer the bowling contest. They both began their journey to Reno, where the bowling contest was taking place. Next we see two villains tracking Knuckles who hope they can capture Knuckles and sell him to the buyer who needed his power, a robot he was building. The buyer on the hand already had few of Knuckles' powers with him, which he sent to Willoughby and her partner so they can match Knuckles' power and strength when they begin combat. Meanwhile, Knuckles and Wade head to a bowling gamehouse to observe Wade's battleground. They got bowling until Willoughby and her partner teleported through one of the rings Sonic had. They began fighting and they were his match because of the bits of power from the buyer given to them by the buyer. Wade was totally useless in this battle. Knuckles was almost victorious, but he got captured using one of the rings. After the villains fled the scene, Wade came up with a stupid idea of going after them to rescue Knuckles. So he picks up the weapons Willoughby and her partner left behind them and goes after them stealthy till they arrived at the exchange venue. They unload Knuckles and place him inside the venue. Wade on his own part tries motivating himself, so he goes to a store and get his own version of weapons to save the Echidna. Wade is a very funny character, one you can call the comic relief of the movie, and his imagination is out of this world. He's a complicated guy, but all these are just imaginations. Wade returns to where Knuckles was held captive with his rescue tools. He tries making the rescue look cool and awesome but accidentally sets off fireworks, which alerts the villains. That obviously didn't go as planned. Wade swung into action mistakenly. Mason then goes after Wade while Willoughby stays and guards Knuckles. Mason had the upper hand, beating Wade, but Wade takes his chances and takes down Mason. He then gets to Knuckles and frees him. While Willoughby and Mason were unconscious, Knuckles takes Wade and glides down the hill. They get to safer ground and get driving to Reno. Meanwhile, Willoughby and Mason recover and plan to get Knuckles back for the buyer. On their way to Reno, rocking their jam and vibing, there was a news interruption stating there's a bounty on Wade's head set by Willoughby. A $100,000 to get Wade Whipple. Knuckles suggests they go somewhere hidden. Wade agrees and suggests going home, where he hasn't been in a really long time. They get there, Knuckles stays hidden in order not to freak his mom out. He explains to his mom and sister, who's in the FBI, why he needs to spend some time home. He then introduces Knuckles to his mom and sister. Wade's mom faints at the sight of Knuckles. She wakes up trying to get herself together. Then they both have a little introduction. Wade's mom invites Knuckles for dinner to host him and spend a little time with them. In the evening, dinner gets ready. Knuckles naturally is a lover of grapes, but he tries out the food and really appreciates it and loves it. On the other hand, Wade and his sister have a little history. They always had issues. Deep into dinner they got into a heated argument which made his sister stab him on the hand with a fork. Wade got pissed and left. Later that night, 4 bounty hunters who worked together heard of the amount on Wade's head raided the house, hoping to abduct Wade, but Knuckles the Echidna came to the rescue. He saved Wade and his sister. Wade's mom was practically killing it. She joined forces with Knuckles in beating down the 2 other bounty hunters. Wade's mom was finally happy, one of the family reunions she's had in a while. The next morning Wade got abducted by another bounty hunter who happened to be Wade's best friend named Jack Sinclair. Jack had to betray Wade because he needed money to fund his lifestyle. Wade, who was stranded, hoped Knuckles would come after him to save him, but Knuckles wanted to teach him a valuable lesson, so Knuckles calls Wade on the phone and gives him a little advice on how to travel to the Echidna's ancestral land. Wade follows his instructions and gets into the ancestral land. He meets Chief Pachacamac, who tries using a show to show Wade where Knuckles' true power comes from. The show begins, but truly it was telling a story. Wade really wasn't following the story, or rather he didn't understand the story, so he hurriedly woke up and tried escaping, but obviously so he went back into the ancestral land and listened again. Finally he understood the true source of Knuckles' power, so he woke up again and broke out of the cage. Jack Sinclair noticed this and came down for a duel. A duel which involved swords. Wade, who finally believed in himself, came out victorious and took Jack Sinclair's cool jacket. Jack Sinclair ran home in shame. Wade returns home with his new cool jacket. He passed his lesson. Later that day, they rode to Reno with Wade's mother and sister for the bowling contest. It was really beautiful in Reno. At the Reno, Wade met his father, who abandoned he and his family since he was a kid. Amidst all of this, Wade still loved his father, who was a bowling master. Wade tried walking up to his father but seemed so scared and nervous. So Knuckles encourages him. Wade really missed his dad, but his dad acted like he missed Wade as well. While catching up, Wade's mom sees Wade laughing with his dad, which made her sad. Meanwhile, the buyer sent his boys to get Willoughby and Mason. He was going to kill them for not getting to capture Knuckles. Willoughby and Mason then try convincing the buyer to give them a little time to capture Knuckles. On the other hand, the buyer needs Knuckles' power to power his new robot creation, so he gives them one last chance to get him Knuckles. Back at Reno, they begin the tournament. Different teams of twos coming together to bowl. Wade teamed up with the little girl Jack Sinclair replaced him with, and other competitors. At some point, some started getting eliminated little by little, leaving father and his father in the finals. Wade did impressively well, which surprised his father. The finals was scheduled to the next day. Wade and his dad retired for the evening at a little bar in the hotel for a drink, and they had the father and son talk. Wade curiously asked his father why he abandoned them. He lied, saying he made a mistake abandoning them and didn't have the courage to return back to them. Wade's mom saw both of them again talking and hugging, so she goes to see Wade privately. She tries telling him about his dad. She warned him against his dad, saying he wasn't to be trusted regardless. Wade refused to look at his dad as a bad person. His mom then said whenever he acts like he wants to come back home, that's when he'd hurt you the more. She walks away wishing him luck. On her way to the elevator, we see Mason, but Wade's mom doesn't know his identity. Wade visits his dad's suite. Wade was really surprised at the size of the suite. So they both walk to the master suite. Wade's father apologizes for something unknowingly. Wade wonders why until he saw his mom and sister tied to a chair by Mason and Willoughby. Wade was surprised his dad betrayed him. His father literally give them up so Wade can get taken away, and so he won't be able to show up for the match the next day. Willoughby threatens to kill his sister if he doesn't get Knuckles. He literally didn't care. That was hilarious until the gun was placed on his mom's head. He immediately agreed to bring Knuckles to them. Willoughby tells him not to end the phone call so she can hear his conversation with Knuckles and make sure he doesn't give Knuckles any sign of their presence in his father's chambers. While getting into the elevator, Wade came up with an excuse in order not to get into the elevator. So Knuckles agrees to go wait Wade in his father's chambers. Knuckles gets into the elevator. Wade stares at the elevator, feeling bad for betraying his very good friend Knuckles. Willoughby and Mason wait for Knuckles. As soon as the elevator door opens, they fire at the elevator and later see a costume of Knuckles. Knuckles then attacks from his hiding place, and it was revealed that Knuckles was listening to their conversation from an AirPod the whole time. Knuckles swung into actions, taking on both Willoughby and Mason. While they were battling, Wade snuck into the room, got past the fight and got to save his sister and mother. Knuckles was quite dealing with the situation really well. Having fought both Willoughby and Mason before, he adapted. Wade gets into sight, which distracts Knuckles. Willoughby tries taking advantage of the distraction, shoots those teleporting rings at Knuckles, but he hits them away, which opens an air-sinking portal. Quickly Knuckles got to higher ground to avoid being sucked in. Willoughby got sucked in while trying to hold on to Mason. She came out of the other portal and got sucked in again with Mason. While that was dealt with, they immediately got back to the bowling game in order to finish the finals, which was between Wade and his father. Wade's dad never expected Wade to show up because he felt Willoughby and Mason still held them captive. Wade shows up at the finals. Wade and his father began bowling. It was a tight contest of talent and experience. At the end of the tight competition, Wade came out victorious. While he was about celebrating, Knuckles was smashed into the arena by the buyer who came to claim his price himself. Wade hurried to help his friend. Knuckles on the other hand got beaten and the buyer sucked out his powers, which got him unconscious. Wade came to the scene and tried lending a hand to Knuckles, who was down. Wade's mom and sister came to the scene and handed Mason's weapon to Wade in order to help him against the buyer. Wade began throwing bowling balls at the buyer while trying to get Knuckles back with his touching speeches of their adventure and trainings. Wade ran out of balls finally and almost got hit by the buyer before Knuckles came to his rescue. Knuckles sucked his power out of the buyer's robot and fought back with Wade's help and defeated the buyer. Wade claimed his price and got back home with his family. Throughout the series, Knuckles encounters new allies, formidable foes, and faces challenges that test his strength and courage. With heart-pounding action sequences, emotional character development, and unforgettable moments, the Knuckles series 2024 captivates audiences and leaves them eagerly awaiting the next installment. It is a thrilling journey filled with epic battles, intriguing plot twists, and memorable characters that keep viewers on the edge of their seats. Please subscribe, guys. Thank you.